Okay. Yeah, there's no good place. So it is what it is. Take it or leave it. Mostly leave it. Like it's all good. It's me again. Hello. Let's see. I had surgery on my hand a week ago today by the wonderful Dr. William Erickson of the Erickson Hand Center. In a doctor patient kind of way, excuse me. This was annoying me. In a doctor patient kind of way, I'm in love with him. Anyway, enough of all that modeling stuff. So that's why I look like this. I might be repeating myself. Excuse me, my nose itches. And it's running. And I know this is really uncouth, and I apologize, but I'm thinking I needed to give just a little bit more context around this little exercise I'm doing with you or myself. I know that I mentioned it took me 8 years to record a book for my daughter. Anyway, and I have this thing about, I wouldn't call it that I'm a perfectionist, but I would say I definitely struggle starting a project because I think about it so much. And then I also struggle finishing said project because, let's face it, I get easily distracted or other things come up. Priorities are shifting. The wind blows. Oh, life, right? We get it. But I tend to take that to the nth level and I'll finish something. Never. So, as part of my 60th year project, this may be the one and only project I do. I was kind of hoping to do a couple, but this may be the only one. I am going to finish it. But I had made some rules for myself. And if I have already gone over these, I apologize because I am going to post this before I watch it again. Certainly before I go back and watch the very first introduction, chapter 1 video. So I made this promise to myself. I'm pretty sure I said this already, and I apologize. Please skip. I promised myself I wasn't going to edit anything. And I will confess, you probably noticed that the time sequence was off a little bit. I watched chapter 1 after I posted it, and I was so mortified. Oh, those things that you do, and then you think you're being like funny. Oh, that's really funny, Lori. And then you're like, oh my God. Okay, it was funny the first 3 times you did it, but the 17th time, you just look like an idiot. So then I made the mistake of looking at chapter 2, which was fine. And I actually, in many, many ways, prefer that experience. But I had a really, really big debate with myself, and I apologized to my son and his girlfriend. I actually think I may have mentioned this in one of those recordings as well, about beating myself up. I'm not going to edit it, but I really hate the way I ended it. It looks like I'm a crazy woman. I am a crazy woman. I should just leave it alone. Anyway, the way that I convinced myself that I wasn't breaking my rules was I was going to re-record chapter 2 in 2 parts because it took so long to upload chapter 1. So I did that, and I uploaded them. And that was really good. I uploaded them, and I didn't watch them. I didn't obsess. Well, I did, but I did not take action on said obsession, and I went ahead and uploaded them. Uploaded them both without looking at either of them. Well, then there was chapter 3, and I was going to just jump in and just redo chapter 3. And then I thought, Lori, you really kind of broke the rules. You should just post it. Well, guess what? I did. And it didn't post any slower than the smaller videos on chapter 2. And excuse me, I'm going to scratch my nose again. So really, the smaller videos didn't upload any faster. So it's all just about timing and all that kind of stuff. So I'm going to go back to my original rule, mostly because I know I will never, ever, ever get this done if I don't. I am going to just say whatever I say. Realize I've gone on for quite some time now. Oh goodness, 5 minutes and 34 seconds. Well, that might not be true. 6 minutes and 43 seconds. Oh, my nose itches. Anyway. You get what you get because you're in my living room. Literally, I'm actually doing this in my living room today. It's a beautiful day. The sun was shining. Went out and played a lot with the dog, but I'm cold, and I hate heating the whole house when I'm here by myself. So I have turned on the gas heater, gas fireplace. So I'm getting this little warm cocoon down here. But I am still wearing my bathrobe. At least this time I'm wearing it as I like it. Okay. Totally, I would pause the video and scratch my nose, blow my nose, do whatever I was supposed to be doing with my I'm realizing I'm wearing the Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer nose. But, so what's new? But when I do that, I end up having to, this is again me not really knowing what I'm doing. I end up having to create a new video, and then I'm having pieces, and then I'm having to put them together, and then if I'm editing them to try to put them together, then I'm gonna probably fix all this long rambling I've done, and again, I can't do that. So should probably tell people, the good stuff starts at this moment. Excuse me while I scratch my shoulder. Okay, here we go, chapter 4. And I'm reading in my lap, so I'll be looking down quite a bit, guys. I'm really sorry. This is not ergonomically conducive, but again, defeating the purpose. You're hanging out with me here. Okay, here we go, chapter 4. Suspended, benched, disaster. Wow. Sorry, there was a lot of bad light. Okay, guys, really apologize. I'm trying to, as if you really were sitting here, I'm trying to block the light. And then it casts this. Yeah, okay. The words circled around my brain like a macabre merry-go-round as I walked woodenly out of Gadsden's office. By the time I was done going through processing, yeah, even suspended, I was stuck doing paperwork and handing over my weapons, badge, and ID. It was past the end of my original shift. I cursed at the clock on the wall and jogged to Aurelius's reading nook to relay the news of my suspension and the events or the person that had led to it. Dragons might not show humans much courtesy, but I tried not to let her manners rub off on me. She eyed me languidly over her copy of Computing with Quantum Cats, From Colossus to Qubits. Want me to turn his car into a lump of coal? No, I said automatically, even though I sort of did. Want me to slowly dismember him and eat the pieces before he loses consciousness? No! I didn't know how she passed the psychometric testing to get into the department. Pity. She returned to her book. Momentarily distracted, I narrowed my eyes at her. The captain said you turned in the best incident report he'd ever read when I was on leave. She dragged her attention back to me. Just because I can do something better than you doesn't mean I should have to do it. By that logic, you would be out of a job. She blinked pointedly. A power move only a few species can pull off. I can't help it if I'm superior at everything I turn my talons to. I can't help it if I'm superior at everything I turn my talons to. Sometimes I forget the voices. I decided not to yank the book out of those talons and bonk her over the nose with it, but only because she was right. Well, that, and I didn't feel like finishing up my crappy afternoon by getting eaten by a dragon. The special-made rubber thimblets that she wore over her page-turning claws really ought to have made her look less intimidating, but somehow they didn't. I headed for the elevator instead, unable to stop thinking about the clairvoyant's visit, about Gadsden's words. Citywide disaster. Some people classify a disaster as something like the caterer failing to show up, or maybe missing out on a promotion that they've been pursuing for months. But working for the LVMPD adjusted the scope of the word. A disaster in my books usually involved fatalities. And a citywide disaster? The tentacles were back and squeezing my chest so tight I found it hard to breathe. What was going to happen? That burning question was overshadowing the implications of my suspension right now. The fact my unusual magic had bit me in the ass yet again. I could deal with that later, when my family and the city were safe from whatever was threatening them. Would I end up grateful that my elder siblings couldn't make it to Dad's party tonight, even knowing the terrible secret he'd asked me to keep? No, surely if it was that level of disaster, Gadsden wouldn't have left me to be blindsided, would he? Would he? He could have suggested I take the family on a road trip or get out of town for a few days. And as far as I knew, he hadn't called in military backup. Then again, what did I know? Nothing. That was the problem. Punched the elevator button with more force than was necessary and then changed my mind and took the stairs. Their speculation was getting me nowhere. With considerable effort, I yanked up the handbrake on my runaway brain. I hadn't been a cop long, but I'd already realized that some days you got to hold back calamity and other days you left the horrors of work at work and went home to your family to remember that there was still love and light and laughter in the world. Okay, right now I'm wishing that you were sitting in my living room because I left my glass across the room. but that, didn't work out. So I'm going to stand up and grab my beverage and scratch my nose while I'm doing it. Oh, yeah. Okay, I know that's not going to last very long, but at least you didn't have to watch me scratch my nose. Okay. When my nieces and nephews were little, when my sister Robin's kid, I guess all of my nieces and nephews were little at the time, but VCRs were, stop it. I digress. It's a story for another chapter. Today hadn't been all. I forgot to take the drink. This happens to be Perrier sparkling water with lemon and guava natural flavoring. I hate to say the natural flavoring. I didn't mean to say that. Natural juices. I scored these for like 4 little 8-ounce cans for $1. I think between Jessica and I, we must have bought 100 of them. Oh, damn. Sorry, I digress again. Maybe that's why my nose is itching. I'll get better, I promise. Today hadn't been all bad, just the second half of it. But according to Anuku, that second half was far from over. And suddenly there was nothing more I wanted than to be surrounded by family. So I wasted money on a cab instead of jogging like I normally would, rolled down the windows to dilute the lingering walrus odor, and spent the short trip plotting how to repeatedly wash my hair with industrial strength shampoo while somehow still making it to the party on time. Whatever was coming tonight, I wanted to be there to protect my family from it. Someone had been in my apartment. I knew because my door wasn't locked, and I always locked my door. Being a cop meant most people left me alone, but for a select few, it made me a target instead. Yet there were no signs of forced entry, and the intruder could be long gone, or not. I reached for my taser as a precaution and came up empty. Screw those inventory clerks. They were thorough. Chances were I'd already been given myself away by jingling the keys, but I slipped through the door, left it open for a possible retreat, and made my steps soft and silent against the vinyl plank floor. 4 paces in, I relaxed my coiled readiness. Hey, little one. My sister in all the ways that counted, if not by blood. She was sitting in my living room, dwarfed by the cheerful but sturdy teal couch. I'd given her a key to my apartment to use whenever she wanted some space or a different kind of company, but she usually locked the door behind her. She might be only 6 years old, but she was smart and studious, and our family, we took safety very seriously. The fact that she'd forgotten suggested something was wrong. Her black corkscrew curls framed her face, but didn't entirely hide her curved horns that were growing more noticeable as she got older, nor the dark furry ears that resembled that of a deer or a goat. Those ears were a little droopier than usual. This was not good. She looked me over with serious dark eyes, taking in my gluey, disheveled hair, the sheen of sweat coating my skin from my jog down the LVMPD's unair-conditioned stairwell, and the rotting walrus odor my nose still hadn't gotten used to. Now that's why my nose itches. But instead of wrinkling her petite nose like the kid I'd rescued, her face lit into a smile like every sticky, smelly inch of me was a gift. I swallowed a sudden lump in my throat and resigned myself to going to the party with goopy hair. Did something happen? I asked. She nodded, her ears drooping again and her smile falling away. At school? Want to tell me about it? She gathered her skinny legs and grazed knees up to her chest and stared at her toes. Her half-human and half-fawn, as half-human and half-fawn, she'd missed out on the hooves, but the soles of her feet were tougher than most shoes, and her toenails were the color of tree bark. I sat down on the couch beside her and said in my best cop voice, "I need a police report, ma'am." Her lips tilted upward a fraction. I glazed at the dried slime still clinging to my arm hairs, then decided if she didn't care, I didn't either, and put my arm around her. I just realized every time I move, I'm probably picking up a lot of noise with the mic. Sorry. She hesitated for half a second, then wiggled more snugly into my side. Her magic brushed up against me, gentle and soothing, but I didn't draw upon it. Face buried, she felt secure enough to share. Braden said I was a demon and I should go back to hell and die. I hissed in a breath, forced myself to unwind. 23 years was too soon to expect humankind to adjust to the greatest upheaval since the Industrial Revolution. Too soon, and yet not nearly soon enough. It was one of the ugliest sides of my beloved city. Although other cities were even worse, I reminded myself. Vegas had been rebuilt to accommodate all species, and in general, the people who chose to live here reflected that. This was schoolyard bullying. A particularly toxic variety, yes, but at least better than the string of brutal attacks that was happening in Phoenix. Better did not mean acceptable. Sorry. That was very wrong and ignorant of him, I stated firmly. How did you react? I didn't. She whispered like it was something shameful. I just tried to walk past, but then he pushed me. I recalled the fresh grazes on her knees in an abruptly different light, and familiar fury flushed through me. The little twerp must have pushed her from behind to leave grazes like that. I kept my voice calm to keep from upsetting her. Did you use one of the moves we practiced after that? Sage shook her head and her ringlets were bouncing. It wasn't for lack of ability. Miles made sure all of his kids could defend themselves. Some of us enjoyed it. Some of us didn't. But everyone achieved a level of competency, and Sage was supernaturally fast and wiry and could headbutt with the best of them. But it didn't matter how capable she was at self-defense techniques if she didn't have the will to use them. And Sage was an incredibly gentle soul. My heart ached with love and anguish for her. It was a tough way to grow up. We were making progress, I reminded myself forcefully. Not nearly freaking fast enough, but at least we were moving in the right direction on most days. I had to find some solace in that. I hugged Sage even tighter. You are far too good and gentle and beautiful for the likes of Braden. If I had my way, I'd keep you all to myself, except that would be selfish of me. I shut my eyes, wishing for a second that I could do it anyway, to shelter her and protect her in a life where she would only love, where she would only know love. But the world needs beautiful souls like you, my love. Remember that. Sage's curls knotted under my arm, and I resisted squeezing her even tighter. Have you told Dad yet? There was a pregnant pause. No. He didn't take attacks upon his family well, and he'd be upset both that it happened and that she had not stood up for herself. Then Sage, sensitive soul that she was, would pick up on his emotional state and she would blame herself for it, even though Miles never would. Do you want to keep it to ourselves just this one time? Sage nodded again. It's a deal then. Now, how about you wrap Dad's present for me while I looked at the clock. Well, so much for my plan to shower, let alone wash my hair 6 times. Well, I get ready. The present was more than I could afford, particularly with the unanticipated suspension. But finding the perfect gift for a vampire who's been around for almost 300 centuries is no mean feat. And for once, I thought I might have nailed it. There was no way I was going to take it back. Especially since... Okay, no, I couldn't think about that right now. Not if I wanted to hold it together. Tonight was supposed to be a celebration. Miles' birthday and the Revolution Day, both happening today. I left Sage with the wrapping paper and raced to the bathroom. I scraped the gluey, gunky strands of my hair into an updo that utterly failed to hide its gross state. I know, isn't my hair beautiful? I know. People pay great money to have hair that looks like this, right? I wiped the worst of the sweat off with a damp face cloth and then dashed to the bedroom where I threw on jeans, a dressy, loose-fitting top, and a pair of dangly earrings that I could never get away with on duty. Another glance at the clock made me grateful all over again that I decided to rent an apartment in the same building as my family. Miles felt being late was a sign of disrespect, and it had saved my neck more than once to be so close. Ready? I asked Sage. Ready, she said, and my heart swelled to see her ears counted at what I privately thought of as their happy height. Oh, okay, that's the end of chapter 4. I've realized that I often will just that's it, we're overdone, I'm gonna stop. So, okay, really quick, that's the end of chapter 4. Okay, so what have we learned? Two weeks, no pay. I get it. That's not very much fun, especially if you have bills to pay, right? Ouch. Stepdad named Miles, who's a vampire. Oh, that would be kind of interesting. And I don't like the word stepsister. Apparently, she's like a foster sister, but her sister's age, only 6. Part fun. Ooh, actually, I would really love to be able to run around. Sounds like she could really pretty much run around in just her feet. Her soles are tough and seem to be able to take that. So I would love that. My feet, I can't even walk around in the house without putting on some shoes. All stories for another day. Okay, so chapter 4 is over. I hope you had a great afternoon, and I love you all. See you soon. Bye.